Anyway, so last night, game one of the NBA Finals, and let me tell you something. I had high hopes. Early on, I had high hopes that the Warriors were going to kind of run away with this thing. They got a nice little lead in the beginning. They were hitting their shots. Everything was working. But man, oh man, that fourth quarter. And somebody decided to drop 26 right on your nose, Gooch, and that's Al Horford.
I know, dude.
You didn't even think he'd be on the postseason roster at this point. And my man hits 6 3-pointers last night. Like, he was very uncharacteristic, obviously, but my goodness, what a performance by the Celtics. They went on the road, they took care of business, and now this series has a completely different look and feel to it. So like it's just like, I thought to myself, if Boston was going to have a chance here, and look, I took Boston in 6. Golden State in 6. So in order for it to get 6, Boston's going to have to win a couple games. I just didn't think they were going to do it on the road. I really didn't. I thought the Warriors would kind of run them out of the gym for a couple. Then you would get that one pickoff game in Boston, and then like a couple little, things here and there. But last night, they were everything was dropping.
So this is one of those situations where I come in and I'm like I've never been more wrong about something in my entire life. I still somewhat feel that way about the series. Al Horford didn't play terrible the first 3 quarters, but he wasn't necessarily taking over the game. If you saw the way the first 3 quarters went, I mean, at least the first and the third, that's the Warriors team that I expected to see the entire game. But man, when you could sit here and say what you want about the Warriors and their performance in the fourth quarter, it wasn't good on either side of the ball. But the Celtics didn't miss a shot, barely at all.
They shot 50% throughout the game, but
in the fourth quarter,
in the fourth quarter they were
NBA
and it wasn't just, he's on fire.
And it wasn't the guys that you would expect it to be. Jaylen Brown played really well, but Jason Tatum struggled mightily in that game. And I said I don't think Al Horford has a place on the floor at all in this series. And like I said, I couldn't have been more wrong. Shout out to Al Horford in his finals appearance. I'm pretty sure it's the most points by a Celtics player making his finals debut, maybe ever. And the fourth quarter was just out of this world, hitting 3 after 3. The game to take the lead, and then the one to like really put the dagger in them, because Golden State needed to stop after that timeout, and they turned it over. And right away, Horford again. I'm like, is this a replay? I couldn't fucking believe it. That ugly Bill Cartwright looking jump shot that he took. Buckets, though.
Dude, it was every time you looked, they were hitting another big shot. And I was just like, man, I'm watching this bet dwindle away. And I'm just like, oh, my God. And I'm talking to my boy on the text. I'm texting Greg, and I'm like, dude, like this sucks. Like,
I know Kyle was coming in. Like, everyone was just splashing in the Splash Brothers' face, mainly Steph's face. But it was tough, man. Like, that team defense was brutal. They were making all the extra passes. Golden State was one step behind the entire fourth quarter. Once things got out of hand, I think they were down 12 going in, and they won by 12. So they got outscored by 24. We could talk about whatever we want. The Warriors can't have that breakdown late, and they'll be okay. This series isn't over. I know the recency bias is going to kick in mightily right now, and like the series is over. Everyone,
I don't think anybody can write that off. There's no way.
Done. They played really well. They played really well for 3 quarters, and they played like complete garbage in the fourth.
An interesting thing here is yesterday when we were talking about this series, you're like, well, in order for the Celtics to be in it, Tatum has to be God mode. And it's crazy because he scored 12. You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't a big contributor.
Think that they could. I have to admit it. Like, I'm not giving the Celtics enough credit when they're matching up to Golden State. Obviously, after yesterday, just seeing that there's other factors that I'm overlooking because I hate the Celtics. And as they get closer to winning, I try and find more reasons why they won't, because I hate Boston. And it's like admitting it, but what are you going to do? I'm not going to pick them tomorrow either. Well, thank God we won't be picking because.
Yeah, well, I was my gut says that the Warriors bounce back in a big way tomorrow. So like that's just like, I don't know what the spread is yet, and I'm sure it's coming out.
Yeah,
but
I'm gonna bring up Kyle's comment.
That's a long one, so yeah, bring it up big. Excuse me. Let's see. I had to say something because literally I've said this for about Steph Curry for years. Plays no defense and disappears in most fourth quarters, and it literally happened like that, exactly like that.
There was
the over did hit, Johnny. That's the only bet I did win.
There was a couple people that were saying like, "There's nobody can stop Steph." And Steph was playing really good, and then he just didn't.
It's interesting.
Neither did anybody, though.
What does that do for his legacy? I don't know. We can't talk about him anymore because of one bad game. Here we go again.
Well, I'll tell you what it will do to his legacy if they get walked on the way they did in the fourth quarter. It won't be good. And I'm not going to sit here and say recency bias that I bash everybody else for, and I was just caping up for Steph. But it will hurt because when you lose in NBA Finals, you see what it does to LeBron's legacy, like getting there and losing. But the thing is, LeBron is being compared specifically to Michael Jordan, where Steph is being compared to Kevin Durant, where you could find glaring deficiencies in his legacy as well.
Interesting. Anyway, so that's game 1. Game 2 will happen tomorrow night. Probably. See, I won't complain about a 9:00 start tomorrow night. It's Saturday. So yeah, go for it. You know what I mean? But yesterday, I'm like, oh my God, who's going to win this game? And then obviously the bets start, not playing out in my favor. So therefore it all sucked. People will look at him, see he scored a lot of points and completely ignore what actually happened. That's true. Cause he went for 34. I did take a stupid prop bet last night. It was like plus like 250 or something like that, where any player would score 35 points or more. Any player. Curry drops 34. I wanted to fucking punch somebody right in the face. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, how do they figure that out like that? Like, nobody on the court will score 35 points. I'm like, that's impossible. Somebody's got to go off. It's game 1 of the NBA Finals. And then, sure as shit, Curry goes for 34, and that's it. And I'm like, well, all I needed was one more pointless bucket to cash that bet. But no go.